Hello, and thank you everybody for being here to help us celebrate Novak Djokovic and Montblanc's Mark Maker collaboration. My name is Courtney Kennefic, and I'm so lucky to be joined here today by Novak himself. He and Montblanc have been working together for years, supporting his foundation with the shared belief that writing is a fundamental part of education. I'm so excited to get to speak with you today about the next chapter of this partnership with Montblanc.
Thank you so much. Great to speak to you too.
So this collaboration with Montblanc marks more than 311 weeks at #1 on the ATP. Very impressive. Can you tell us more about the moment that you broke that previous record and what that felt like?
Well, it was a very historic, very meaningful moment for me and for my entire team and family and everyone who has been supporting me throughout my career. Obviously, sharing such a monumental success and achievement with the closest people in my life makes it even more joyful, even more fulfilling. I think the historic #1 rankings is probably next to Grand Slam, the pinnacle of the sport. It's in terms of what you can achieve. It's been always my goal to try to play at my best. And be consistently on a high level, and being in an era with Federer and Nadal, that made it even more challenging for me, but I think I became a stronger player and more capable of overcoming, I think, and coping with pressure and expectations. So there was a lot of pressure, I think, being built up prior to that 311 week.
Yeah.
But with COVID and interruption of 6 months in a season in last year in 2020, obviously hasn't been easy on anyone. And as athletes, once you start a season, you're kind of in the flow, and then that flow was interrupted. So, the anticipation of it all was kind of playing with my emotions. But in the end of the day, it was a great ending, and well, it still hasn't ended in terms of my career, but it still keeps on going, and I'm of course inspired to do more.
This is obviously a very big achievement, but there are so many small moments that lead to that big milestone. So what would you say are some of your guiding principles on a daily basis that helped you to get to that particular milestone?
I think clarity of what I really want to achieve in my career, and I try to ask myself a question often: am I really enjoying what I'm doing? Because that's particularly at this stage of my career and my life a focal point, and everything revolves around the passion that I bring into an everyday professional tennis career, and whether I can deliver once again after almost 20 years in professional tennis. And of course I am as motivated as ever, but things change obviously as I became a father and wanted to spend more time with the family and kind of focus my attention more on the big tournaments and the Grand Slams. So I think it's about clarity, it's about determination, but as I mentioned before, it's about passion and love and really what this sport means to me on a deeper levels, and that is the biggest driving force.
Yeah, and despite being so successful, I do think it is easy to get caught up in what is coming next, what is the next tournament, what is the next achievement, what is the next goal I have to hit. So how do you celebrate each moment and take the time to sort of acknowledge that you have hit at least one pinnacle?
I think we're all trying to immerse in the present moment as much as we possibly can, whatever we're doing in life, right? Because that's when we can truly enjoy and feel the experience of playing tennis or being at a concert or whatever it is. But the human mind is like that it constantly brings you forward in future. You have tons of what-if questions, imagining different scenarios, or you're going to the past and regretting certain things that you have done and regretting that you haven't done it differently. So I think the whole wisdom really is to try to be in a moment, take the most out of that moment. I feel like that kind of mental training and mental work has helped me to be able to exert the most of my abilities in every aspect of that word, in the last 10 years.
Being present. You hear it all the time.
Yeah.
It's the key. So your collaboration with Montblanc is, as I mentioned earlier, supports a shared belief that writing is a fundamental part of education that every child should have access to. But I know there's a personal connection to writing as well. So can you speak to how writing has been such a big part of your life and your career?
I'm not saying just this because I'm collaborating and partnering with Montblanc, but I always adored Montblanc writing instruments. I mean, it was a dream to always have the Montblanc pen, you know, in my hands. And I remember the first time with my parents, bought it, and it was a spectacular sighting, you know, for all of us. And I was taught by my parents and by my tennis, first big tennis coach, tennis teacher, as I like to call her, my tennis mother, to take notes, to write diary from a very early age, and to make sure that I, you know, connect to the present moment through writing.
Right.
You know, going back to the importance of the present moment. So that's one of the ways to really kind of meditate. You know, to be in the moment is to take a notebook, take your diary, and start writing things down. And it's the most difficult thing is to start. But once you start, it kind of flows. So my notebook, Montblanc notebook, is really consists of many different things. Whether it's, you know, my emotions, good or bad, the technical reports from my practice sessions, whether it's some affirmations, whether I'm trying to remember my dreams, whether I'm writing down my ideas of businesses, projects, whatever, or just you know, memorizing something. So I don't have really an order there so much. I would say it's more of really sharing and whatever comes and whatever flows. And I feel it's a very important part of my life. My wife's, she's even more consistent and more disciplined with writing. And we try to instill that and convey that kind of passion for writing and to our children. You know, we have two little angels. Our son Stefan is almost 7 and Tara is almost 4, our daughter. So we can see the importance of the early childhood development that we've been devoted to through our foundation the last 15 years. Now we can actually, as parents, see it even from that role, from that perspective, you know, how important it is to really, you know, stimulate your child's environment in a constructive way, in a positive way, so that his or her brain can grow in a way that will allow them to be happy, to be prosperous, to be, you know, abundant human beings in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, I think to what you're saying, it also helps to process moments and mark down those big achievements that we were speaking about earlier. And it must be interesting to go back and sort of read how you felt during, you know.
Yeah, I'm not really, you know, this is an interesting thing because, you know, whoever is doing diary, you know, most of the people, they would tell you one of the biggest reasons why you're writing things down is because you want to go back and understand, you know, the feeling of what you've been through, and kind of take something out of it, learn, so you can, you know, implement a bit more of that, so to say, wisdom and experience in your present and your future. But I'm not really like that so much. I rarely go back to see. It's for me, it's more about just give me a channel through which I am able to express myself, share in moments when I'm down or in moments when I'm, you know, joyful, whatever, you know, and it's usually when you're down. You know, that's where you start writing things down, is when you know, heartbroken or whatever, or you're sad or you're angry. And it's probably most inspiration comes at that point. But I like to just, you know, release myself of that and move on.
Get it all out.
Yeah.
And you have your own system, it sounds like.
It works, I guess.
Shifting gears a little bit to your foundation, and you know, we're talking about making marks. How does your foundation help children to make their mark on the world?
Well, we go back to what I just previously said: early childhood development, early childhood education is a key. We wanted to focus on that because we realized in our collaboration and my partnership with UNICEF at the time, so almost 15 years ago, that we have a very low percentage of children in Serbia that are attending preschool programs, whether it's a kindergarten or any other individual program. It's not only economical reasons, but it's just lack of understanding or lack of awareness of how important this is, and I guess lack of maybe science to support that. So I think UNICEF helped a lot to bring in some data and information. We as family and my parents that were actually the founders together with me of our foundation in 2007, and in 2010 we got together and we decided, okay, this is the direction we want to choose, because for 3-4 years we were kind of helping everywhere and to everyone that we could possibly help. But then it comes to the point where if you really want to make a substantial difference in certain area on a long run, you need to choose what that is. So we chose education, and particularly early childhood education and early childhood development, because the science is tons of scientific studies and research that show that the human brain grows at a huge speed from 0 to 7. So this is the time when you need to really focus on a proper education of a child and growth and evolution. So we have now over 25,000 children enrolled in our programs. In Serbia, we have around 45, if I'm not mistaken, kindergartens that we've either built from the scratch or rebuilt. So it's been growing at a pace that I feel like we are able to follow, and we did have a lot of opportunities to go abroad, but we want to be able first to solve the great mission that we have in Serbia, which is to allow every child in Serbia to have access to early childhood education program.
And it must be so interesting now that you have children of that age to see how much of an impact it makes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you learn firsthand, right? I mean, there's no better education or school than experience itself, right? So we've been learning a lot, and I can definitely freely say that probably the biggest masters and teachers I've ever had in my life are my children, really and because they challenge me and test me to my core, I can say.
More than anybody, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, they are the biggest joy, of course, my biggest love, but they are also very challenging because they bring out the best in you, but they also, kind of tickle you and
push your buttons a little bit.
And try to surface the things that have been suppressed emotionally, and the things that from probably your childhood you've maybe left aside, and then all of a sudden it just comes up, and you have to deal with that. And so I believe it's kind of both ways. It's not like it's only us that are teaching our children. It's the other way around. So I think that kind of relationship really allows us as parents to be open and to receive the wisdom from our children, because they are completely in the moment. You can learn a lot of things from them. They're fully present. They're forgiving very quickly and forgetting, which I think for us adults is an ultimate mission. Sometimes it's a big challenge for us to just move on from something, and I feel like they are incredible at that.
So resilient. Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic, outside of tennis, as a father and a philanthropist, what is the mark you want to make on the world?
I would like to leave my legacy in tennis, not only through my active playing career, but also through the tennis academy that I've been developing, particularly in Serbia and the region where I'm coming from, but also in the world. I would like, it makes my heart full when I see a young tennis player come up to me and say, you inspired me to get the tennis racket and go out and play. I mean, it's as simple as that. It is the biggest joy I can get as a tennis player, because it has always been about me throughout my career, and as individual athletes, I guess for all of us it's pretty much the same. And everyone around you in your life, your family and closest people in your life had to support you and sacrifice their lives, maybe their passions, in order for you to live your dream. So when I achieved my dreams, and I still live my dream, some things have shifted in a way, the way I see my contribution to the tennis. Up to that point, it was, I just want to achieve this, I just want to be the best, and I want to leave that kind of mark. And luckily for me, I've had, lots of success throughout my career, and I left that mark already. But for me, as I said, then, it was how do I, as a #1 tennis player in the world, how do I influence positively and how do I promote this sport with youth around the world? Because that's I feel a responsibility that I carry, and anybody really who is at the top of the men's or women's tennis game. Really, we are an examples, a role models, and it's a global sport, and we get a lot of recognition, respect, acknowledgement wherever we travel. And we get to play the sport that we truly love and be very, very successful in it. So I feel like we all have that kind of a responsibility to give back to the communities, to our world of tennis, and try to inspire.
Yeah.
It's all about inspiration, because I feel the easiest way to inspire is to be yourself. When you're a true, authentic self, regardless of what maybe majority of people think, whether they think that certain someone is more interesting or fun than somebody else, I feel like every one of us has their own special, authentic, unique stories that they can share with the world.
Absolutely.
So the focus, so to say, of the media is always more towards the top, say 5, 3, whatever players, both on men's and women's side. But I would generally like to see that expand to a larger number of players, because I feel like there's a lot of players that can offer a lot to the world through sharing of their stories. And I feel like a lot of people can draw inspiration from that, because athletes in general, are inspiring for people in different areas of life, because they can, you can identify with a sportsman going through his own battles on the field, on the court. On the pitch. You have kind of like the whole trajectory of life in few hours, everything that you experience, the highs and lows.
Can't even imagine.
And you gotta kind of beat your own demons in order to succeed on the court. So that's, kind of how I see it. And, in the end of the day, I would say the inspiration is the word.
Inspiration. Okay, final question. So you were talking about, achieving your dreams earlier, and in addition to that, your foundation is built on this idea that children should dream big. Did you ever dream that you would spend 311 weeks as the #1 player on the ATP?
No, I was never dreaming of that. I was dreaming to become #1 and to win Wimbledon. That was the 2 biggest childhood dreams. I was in my room when I was 6, 7 years old, constructing a Wimbledon trophy out of improvised materials I could find in the room. As any kid, I was being very creative and just dreaming, imagining things. And that's the beauty of being a child. And I feel like adults should do it more.
Yeah.
We do have ability to, but we just kind of disconnect from that. And so I try to connect to my inner child, so to say, and remember those days, because that gives me, I feel like, connection to this very moment and why I still play tennis. So I was dreaming of winning Wimbledon, eating grass after I win my first Wimbledon. That was always kind of, the funny thought that I had. and to be number one. And I was lucky to achieve both of these things at the same tournament within 2 days in 2011. So
wow.
now 10 years ago.
Wow.
And after that, it was really anything else is a bonus. You
awesome.
know? Of course, I had to like set my own new goals and ambitions, long-term, short-term, but that was the childhood dream. And being 311 plus weeks at the ATP rankings #1 is, yeah, I would say it's probably the hardest, the paramount achievement I've ever had, because in order to have that kind of historic achievement, you need to really be consistently devoted and successful in this sport throughout your entire career, not
right.
only 1 or 2 or 3 seasons. It's literally, I remember when Roger Federer broke the record and he set his new record of 310 weeks.
Right.
Years ago, everyone thought, well, that's going to be impossible to beat, right? And it's never going to be beaten. But then, you know, everything is possible, right, in life. And I think that also my record can be broken, and I want it to be broken, because, you know, that brings more attention to our sport, you know, and I love this sport, and I'm a fan of this sport as much as I'm active in it.
Yeah, well, congratulations again, and thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you to Montblanc, and thank you for tuning in.